Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another exciting episode of Parentea, a show when we sip on a cup of tea and have a candid conversation about parenting. I'm Miley, your host, and join me as usual is our resident expert, Dr. Khánh Trần, who specializes in family and children relationship. And today's topic is very important topic that every family concern, and that is how to fix a broken relationship between parent and their teenager, especially young adult. So let's grab your favorite cup of tea and join me as we dive deep into this topic. So welcome, Dr. Tran. How are you?
I am doing very well, thank you. And thank you again for inviting me back. I'm excited about the topic this week.
I'm actually looking forward to speak to you every week because I feel like every week when we talk about this conversation on parenting, I learn new things from you, Dr. Tran. Great advice, and it helped me being a better parent myself. So, with the topic today is about broken relationship. As you know, you have young children too. You have your daughter and a teenager age. Same as mine. I have two kids, and when they're young, they listen to the parent. Whatever mom or dad say, they follow. They listen. They just good child. But when they get to the age of teenager, that is the age that kids start test the boundary, and that is the age that they rebel. And they will try to do things that maybe in the past when they're younger they would not dare to do or would not dare to ask, but they test the water. So because of that, several families run into conflict. So I want to pick the topic today because I know that it will be a good topic that many parents are facing. And it's a challenge. It's a challenge to deal with teenager and how to keep a healthy relationship. So everything starts by, if we want to fix a problem, we have to go and look at the root cause. So what is the root issue of these broken relationship between parent and their teenager or young adult? Dr. Tran, from your experience working with family and children for many years and seeing thousands of patients, can you share with our viewer what are some of the common reasons why that cause the drifting between parent and their children, especially teenager and young adult?
The variety of reasons we can list in my experience, and a lot of the information I get is actually from the adolescents and kids themselves when I speak to them. And for instance, one of the issues that arise and cause conflict may be unrealistic expectations. Now, expectations are normal, and kids comply to expectations. For example, since very little they go to school, so they know the importance of school. So that's not the issue. Now, it's the unrealistic expectations that we place upon that expectation that can be an issue. Like I know some parents who demand kids to get straight A's because B's, C's, and certainly not D's and F's are good enough. So it's those kind of unrealistic expectations or even excessive expectations that could create tension in the child, which eventually will create problems and conflict within the relationship. There's also poor communication, or in some cases, non-existing communication. So an example of poor communication skill would be not knowing how to listen or not knowing what to listen for. As much as parents like to think they listen to their children, they are more inclined to give advice. So advice bombing is something that parents have a tendency to do because they feel that they have the experience. So they offer all kinds of sage advice. Now, the best part and the greatest part of any form of communication is listening. So the better we listen to our children, and it doesn't matter what they say, if we can just listen to our children, we can achieve and establish trust in the relationship. Another issue would be values. Our values may be very different from the child, and that's okay too. It's important to listen to what is important for the child, certain values that they may incorporate, certain values that they subscribe to. That is key for them. Other things I hear complaining about is criticism and judgment. That can certainly build tension between the parent and the child. There is personality differences. If you have a child who's an introvert and you're more like an extrovert, or vice versa, you're going to present yourself differently. And the child will present themselves differently. And perhaps the child's not presenting themselves in a way that we would expect if we were an extrovert. So again, personality differences can be an issue. And finally, what I see often that can cause conflict in a parent and child relationship is control. I believe most of parenting has little to do with parenting and has more to do with control. But the parent doesn't know that. The parent thinks that the parent thinks that that's parenting the child unwise to, or without the understanding that they're really trying to control the situation under the guise of working in the child's best interest.
So thank Dr. Tran. I agree with all the common reason that you share. And do you think that also part of because of teenager age, they go through puberty and it changed the way they think, they behave, and they more sensitive to their look, to the way they talk and things like that, and they might need some privacy too. So the parent still think them their child and still treat them the same way as they little, but now they developing and they want some privacy and they want to think like adult and want to treat them like adult. Does that also factor in part of the reason?
Yep. Yes, puberty or maturity is always a process that can create a shift in the child mentally, emotionally, socially, relationally, psychologically. And we understand that. That being said, we can still respond in a particular way that can help the child. We can still maintain trust, for example, in the relationship, despite them going through that process. So being there and supportive, understanding that they are shifting and maturing, we have to adapt to their situation at that point. And you're right, personality changes, let's say, when they reach puberty. My daughter started out as quite extroverted. When she was little, we would go into restaurants and she would go from table to table to table to talk to anybody and everybody who would be willing to listen. Now, she's much into her solitude. She's very introverted. We would have never guessed such a great shift from being extroverted to introverted in that way. And that happens. It is placed upon us to adjust our thinking and adapt to the child's situation that allows her to continue to trust us.
Wow, that's interesting. Yes, to shift the mood and shift the personality like that through puberty and developing. Yes. So, from also Dr. Tran, from your experience, what do you observe is some of the first signs that show the relationship between parent and teenager or young adult drifting or start to constraint?
Yes, there are many things that are indicators or signs, but I will start with this. when they start disagreeing with you.
Mm.
So when you're giving unsolicited advice, and you notice that they are not in agreement to your advice, you may want to take a step back because they may not feel that you're listening to them in a way that is meaningful and it invalidates them. So that can lead actually into conflict, and it could exaggerate. Get to a point, the child gets to a point, and you may get to a point where you're arguing or even worse, screaming and yelling at each other. That's a huge red flag, a big indicator. And then it gets even worse. When fighting you doesn't work anymore, they isolate themselves, they withdraw, they detach, they distance. So again, just distancing itself or detaching themselves doesn't always indicate that this is a parent-child disconnect, but it's certainly something to be very aware of and be sensitive to, because when that happens, you may want to communicate with a child to better understand the child's position.
Well, with that, let's talk about the solution because especially if the parent notice that early, so we can help fix this and before it go even worse. So what is your advice, Dr. Tran, for the parent to take the initiative to solve the problem or help so that the situation won't get worse?
And sometimes the situation does get worse because when the parent sees that the child's detached or isolated, they feel desperate. So they force the issue, and then they tell the child that you need to talk to me, you need to engage with to me. That becomes a problem. That is not a good way to build trust, because once it gets to that point where there's a chasm between a parent and a child, there's a gap between the parent and the child, we have to rebuild trust. So to answer your question, building trust is crucial to regaining that bond or that attachment. The other thing is validating the child's experience. So when you're communicating with child, remember, it's not always about the parent, you talking and giving advice to the child. Validating the child is best served when you're listening to the child. And you don't have to always correct them, even if they're wrong. It doesn't even matter to me if a child sitting in my office or my own child is saying something that is wrong. It's not my job to correct them. My job is just to listen. The world will correct them. They will find their way. They will understand right from wrong. Two ways, really, via our example, the way we live, and through the world. So the world can be a big life lesson for the child. So again, you don't need to always correct them. With young children, a good way to maintain connection or rebuild trust is to play with them. You can do that with adolescents too, but their form of play may be different. So it may be in the form of a PlayStation, for example, or sports, or music. So you can engage in those things with them. With younger children, they may be inclined to play with toys. Play is very powerful. Play can produce all kinds of positive experiences, like sharing, connection through sharing. It could teach boundaries. It could teach emotional regulation or control. It can teach behavior control. So that's all through play. Be encouraging. I have a parent who says to me that she criticizes her child a lot because it helps build character. Here's a good way to build character too. Encourage them. Use love, use positivity. You don't necessarily need to use a whole lot of criticism or any criticism at all. I'm more about just staying focused on trying to encourage them through changing their perspective. And then finally, be curious. You want the child to stay connected with you.
Mm-hmm.
You have to establish a curious mindset, because when you're curious, you're asking all kinds of questions to the child, and they're going to feel that you are very interested in him or her. So there's an expression I have in the book that I'm writing. It's called meaning in the child and from the child. The child's meaning, it's in the child and it comes from the child. So if we're curious and we want to ask questions to get to know what the child is, we will find what the meaning of truth is within that child. And a child who feels that she's meaningful because you can read her meaning, you have her. You have
Empower.
her. You have, yes, yes. It empowers them quite a bit because they feel important enough, because they see that you're that interested. You're curious.
Well, I read the phrase, and I would like to share that. I think it's applied not just in relationship, husband, wife, but also parent and children relationship, and that is, you win the you win the battle or conversation from your loved one. That means you not love the person you win. So that means you not always win all the time. Parent, remember that. Should let your children win sometime too. Because if you win all the time, that means to them, you don't love them, right? And if we let them win, that's, hey, once in a while, maybe out of 10, let them win a few times. You can win a few times too, but that's show balancing. Now let's discuss about the balance. A lot of parents struggling to set boundary and in a way that not pushing their child away. So Dr. Tran, what is your advice in balancing discipline and freedom during the turbulent year for parents and their teenager?
Yeah, you can compromise with the child. The child can actually be compromising if you're reasonable. The reason why they're not reasonable and you can't compromise and discipline doesn't work is because your form of discipline is one perspective. It's one way. And to address what you just said earlier about winning or losing, if you are the parent who wants to win, you have to understand that someone will lose, and that someone is your child. Think about that. If in your mind you believe that the child needs to lose and feels like a loser, then you're in the wrong line of business. Maybe parenting is not your thing, and we cannot certainly we cannot accept the fact that the one person who is losing is the very person that we completely adore and love. We do not want to put that child in that position, knowing that we care for that child so much that we set that prerogative of precedence for the child. So relationship, compromising, and even setting boundaries, when you discuss it with the child and collaborate with the child, you may be surprised how fair the child can be, because they'll end up setting boundaries for themselves. My child came to me once upon a time. She was 10 years old, and she says, Dad, I'm going to go outside and play. Can you remind me when it's 7:30 so I can come inside and brush my teeth and be ready for bed by 8? So she knows that I'm reasonable. She knows that I pay attention. She knows that I care. She knows that I will not criticize her or judge her. She knows that I will not set excessive boundaries. She knows. But what I do is put her in a position where she can figure it out for herself. Now, we have to be the example for that, right? So for instance, if you don't want to, you want to limit their, let's say, you don't want them to be on the phone a lot during dinner, then maybe you should put away the phone, or I have some parents who are on the phone, sitting on the couch, turns over to the child and said, put away your electronics. And they could,
Set a sample,
hey,
right? It's hard to
you're not
do
listening to me,
because
right?
parents say, I'm working, even though the phone, but it's answer text at work, and you just play video game. You need to put your device away. It's hard for us to do too, you know?
Yes. Now, being present means being all present, right? We're not really being present when we're telling the child or setting rules or demanding them to do chores while we're on our own electronic. Being present is being fully there. That means it's eye to eye, down at their level, um, and so that they can understand where you're coming from. But they also need for us to understand where they're coming from. We cannot be fully available when we're talking and screaming across the room.
Well, Dr. Tran, you mentioned earlier about how parents should show interest in their child and be a good listener. But the important also how to show your empathy or try to understand and put yourself in your children's perspective. Some of the parents lack of that skill. So can you teach us parenting how to develop that skill so that our children will be more open up to us and be able to talk to us without afraid and be able to share with us anything that they're thinking or what they go through? How to develop that skill?
And empathy is perhaps one, if not at the top, value that is the most important when it comes to parenting. Our ability to show empathy for the child is the expression of our greatness as a parent. Your ability to put yourself in the child's shoes where you're just listening to the child eradicates or takes away all challenges that you will come upon in terms of the child fighting back at you. If you're showing empathy to the child, there's no need for the child to fight. There's no conflict between you and the child because through empathy, you are in the child's a space of understanding. So empathy is powerful because you're hearing the child. And when you can hear the child is felt and understood. The child felt understood is the child who's validated. So empathy, listening, is just listening without the benefits of judgment, without the benefits of criticism, without anything that is expected or obligated from the parent. So when the child comes to me and proposes a problem or issue, I'm listening very carefully, and I may be inclined to throw that question back to the child to see how the child thinks. Now, I want for that child to feel that the child's heard. Once the child's validated, they experience a sense of confidence because they believe they're being heard. So they feel good about themselves. And this is how you build self-esteem in a child. The child needs to feel that they are that important in our eyes, the way we see, or in our ears, the way we listen.
These are very good tips, and thanks, Dr. Tran, for sharing. And again, it's coming back to the skill of listening. Listening, and then from there, we will engage and understand what's going on in our children's mind. Since we talk about the topic of broken relationship, several times because of during the heat of the moment, both party, parent and children, could have said something or did something that could damage the relationship in the long run. And how you as the therapist or doctor, when they come to you to ask for help, what are some of the advice that you would give to the parent or to the family? Because it takes two to tango, right? It takes both parents and the children to work in order to mend the broken relationship. So how would they be able to put the past damage or past hurt aside and move forward to a positive relationship in the future?
This one's a tricky one because personal history or personal experience can carry itself into the present, and especially painful ones. Children, when they are hurt by their parents, let's say if a parent is critical, they will carry that for a very long time. It becomes part of their DNA. It becomes part of their psychological DNA.
Yeah.
They don't forget it. And the reason why they can't forget it is because it's coming from the parents. The most important figures in their life is criticizing them, judging them. That personal history then becomes a present expression, meaning how they feel about themselves, how they think about themselves, how they understand themselves is associated with a lot of the things that we say to them. So a lot of things we say to them carry shame and guilt. It carries fears. Like, a lot of the parenting that we do is actually based on fear. Like, for example, you want your child to do good, get straight A's, go to college and become a doctor, lawyer, engineer, because you are afraid that they will fail, because you are afraid that will reflect on your family. You're afraid. So it's a lot of the things we do in parenting is based on fears. So address those fears within yourself so you can understand and be mindful of how you're communicating that fear. Discuss with the child the issues and problems that they may have concerns about regarding us. When my child was little, once a month, I would go up to her, I would approach her, and I say, "What did daddy do this week or this month that upset you? Can you remember what daddy did this month that made you feel sad, mad?" And she would tell me some things that I said or did. Like one time, I asked her to clean her room, and I said it in this tone: "Jasmine, clean your room, please." Now, I don't yell, but you notice there's a tone in my expression. All it took was that tone, and she perceived it as yelling. So she told me after she cleaned her room, she came out and she said, "We need to sit, Dad, because I felt that you were yelling at me." Now, I did not think I was yelling, but I did not say that. She thought I was yelling, and that's what matters. So empathically, I said, "Oh, can you remind me what I said when I was yelling?" She reminded me, "Jasmine, clean your room." And my response was, "I apologize. I had not realized that I was yelling. Can you remind me next time again when you feel that I am yelling? And I will change my ways." So I like that kind of communication. It empowers the child. A lot of parents are afraid that children, when you talk to this way, it gives them too much power. So that's overpower. That's not true. Children who are empowered, but empowered in the right way, show a greater maturity. So they're not going to use their power to take advantage of their parents because they love their parents too much. They are empowered to reason and collaborate with the parent because they know that the parent can be reasonable with them.
Well, with what you said, Dr. Tran, about your daughter interpret differently, that could be also, in some family situation that it's the parent need to know what is the children wish list, right? So maybe parents should ask the child that, "Give me the list of things that you wish. If you was us, if you was the parent, what would you do?" Then maybe the same thing, the wish list from the parent to the child. This is what we would like you to do. And then exchange that notes so that at least the child will see what makes the parent happy and what the parent is looking for from the child. And the parent, on the other hand, will see what going through to their child and what they can do maybe to eliminate that. For example, raise a voice. Sometimes parents didn't mean it or didn't think that we raise our voice, but to the children, they interpret that we get mad, we raise voice, and they don't like that. So we'll be more mindful, but in this case, it's more like maybe negotiation. What do you think of that approach?
Yeah, I love the approach and I've done this with my child ever since she was little. If you were in my position, how would you do it differently?
Okay.
Can you teach me? Yeah. So what the child does at that point, so what happened in the end was she said, I want to role play that. Go ahead, say it again, but say in a nice voice. So I did. I said, Jasmine, can you please clean your room? And she said, that's good, Dad. Now I need to reinforce this because if I want her to speak to me respectful, she's going to teach me how. And when she teaches me, she uses a respectful tone, and we set a pattern for her to speak to me respectfully. Although I'm the one that's tricking her to teach me how to be respectful, but I'm really teaching her how to be respectful.
That's good.
By teaching me.
Yeah. And now it's gone back to the parent need to be humble and need to empower their child in order to win them, right? Or let them win over. But that's how we build relationship. So what are some other activity or experience that parents and children can work on to help create bonding between them?
I'm going to grasp onto what you said, the humble or humility, where empathy may be the most difficult value that a parent is expression. Humility is one that doesn't even exist a lot of times. So, and humility is equally important, if not as important, because your ability to be humble allows you to be empathic. So your ability to be humble also allows you to be compassionate. It allows you to be understanding. It allows you to be sensitive. It enhances your capacity for listening. So humility, once again, humility is a missing component in parenting. So the more you can practice that, the more, again, it's all about trust. Trust you can build in the relationship with the child. And the greatest thing about humility is those who are, that is parents who are humble. When you are humble, you are less likely to look like a hypocrite, because a lot of parenting is hypocritical. I have parents who say to their children, stop yelling as they're yelling.
That's
Get
true.
off their electronics.
Yes. Yeah. Or stop using the device, but they was on the phone and texting, and that's so true.
The power of humility. It really, really removes that hypocrisy or hypocritical thinking away, and it makes us honest parents.
On this topic, Dr. Tran, with all the thing, all the solution, advice that you provide, but not all relationship will be end up happy or fix the broken relationship. In case that the relationship can be fixed, and with that, as a professional expert, what would be your advice for the family to take from that point? If they try everything and it still not work, they don't want to talk to each other, and basically what do you do with that situation?
We can always make amends of a relationship as a parent, even if it is a difficult and challenging one. It is really up to us to make amendments, changes within ourselves in relation to the child. We have to keep in mind that the child may go no contact or disconnect or detach with the parent is because something happened. A child is in conflict with the parent not because they just happen. I mean, it just happened to be that way. There are always reasons that led up to that situation. Now, we can't be stubborn when the child is stubborn. It may be that the child has a legitimate reason, a good reason why they are stubborn and they don't want to communicate with us. When we break trust in the parent-child relationship, it takes a lot of work to regain it. It takes a lot of work. So, for instance, just criticizing a child, we know that criticism itself, or if the child perceives us as criticizing them, it would take 10 acts of empathy and compassion just to repair one act of criticism or negative judgment. One. And not many parents are willing to apologize. And even if they are, they're not entirely sincere. You know what's the best way to apologize and remedy and help a relationship? It goes back to listening. It's so hard, it's very difficult for us to listen because we're filled with judgment. So we want to share our opinions. And worse, we think our opinions matter than the child because the child is just a child. When we think that way, it's called infantilization. We are infanticizing, making the child infant. When we make a child infant, we don't think they have an opinion because they don't know anything. So when you're listening, listen to validate the child, not listen so that you're ready to express your own opinions about how the child should feel, think, or live.
Thank Dr. Tran for your advice and your tip on this. I would like to end our talk show today on a positive note. For our viewer, especially parents who feel discouraged if they in that situation right now with the relationship with their child going bad, can you share some successful story that you'll be able to help fix a relationship and they have a happy ending for their family?
Yes, I had a child, 10 years old, coming in, struggling with anxiety. There are many things that was causing his anxiety. That included schoolwork, peers, critical teachers, and parents. Now, the source of his anxiety, one of the sources, if not the major source, was his father. So I spoke to the father and I explained as sensitively as I could that he was a source of tension for the child. And it would require a tremendous shift in the father in order to develop any meaningful trust between parent and child. Now, why this I consider a successful story is because the father is an authoritarian parent. Authoritarian parents are very rigid and limited in their thinking. They have one way and one way only when it comes to parenting, and that's punishment and discipline. Love, understanding, and acceptance come last. So, and it's way at the bottom last. But when I was able to provide perspective, the importance of the impact of his parenting and the tension that it was creating between he and his 10-year-old son, he started to tear up. He realized that his way of approaching parenting, just discipline, was creating pain, was creating suffering. Again, there are many things that create suffering in the child, like I said, school and relational issues at school. But we are one of them. We are one of those things that are on top of the list. Our parents who create tension and stress in the child and therefore anxiety. So as the parent changed his way and his attitude, he started to listen more. And the child, 10-year-old boy, started going to him because he was listening. Dad was listening now. He wasn't criticizing, judging, or demanding, or setting all these expectations on the child. And that's the power of listening.
Well, thank you for sharing a wonderful story, Dr. Tran, and we hope that with our story will inspire many family out there who struggling with their relationship with their children, be able to find inspiration and work on to fix that relationship, because it's important that family bonding. Again, thank you, Dr. Tran, for your time to be with us.
And thank you. I'll see you next time.
And to our viewer, we want to say thank you for watching. We hope this episode you find is helpful and be able to help you healing and strengthen your family bond. And remember, the path to reconciliation can be challenging, but the result is worth every sip. So we would like you to continue spread the love and understanding among the family. And until then, we're looking forward to see you again at the next Parentea. Thank you, and see you next time.